Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. Talons and tea leaves. Hermione laughed. Harry felt a little better. It was harder to feel scared of a lump of tea leaves away from the dim red light and befuddling perfume in Professor Trelawney's classroom. Not everyone was convinced, however. Ron still looked worried, and Lavender whispered, "But what about Neville's cup?" When the Transfiguration class had finished, they joined the crowd thundering towards the great hall for lunch. "Ron, cheer up!" said Hermione, pushing a dish of stew towards him. "You heard what Professor McGonagall said." Ron spooned stew onto his plate and picked up his fork but didn't start. "Harry," he said in a low, serious voice, "you haven't seen a great black dog anywhere, have you?" "Yeah, I have," said Harry. "I saw one at night I left the Dursleys." Ron left his fork full with a clatter. "Probably a stray," said Hermione calmly. Ron looked at Hermione as though she had known a man. "Hermione, if Harry's seen a Grim, that's bad," he said. "My uncle Billy has said one, and he died 4 hours later." "Coincidence," said Hermione airily, pouring herself some pumpkin juice. "You don't know what you're talking about," said Ron, starting to get angry. "Grims scare the living daylights out of most illicits." "There you are then," said Hermione in a superior tone. "They see the Grim in dire fright. The Grim's not an omen, it's the cause of death. And Harry's still with us, because he's not stupid enough to see and think right. Well, I'd better put my clothes down." Rob mouthed mostly at Hermione, who opened her bag, took out her new Athamercy book, and popped it open against the juice jug. "I think divination seems very woolly," she said, searching for her page. "A lot of guesswork, if you ask me." "There was nothing swoolly about the Grim in the cup," said Ron hotly. "You didn't seem so confident when you were telling Harry it was a she," said Hermione coolly. "Professor Trelawney said you didn't have the right over. You just don't like being rubbish and sometimes for a change." He had touched a nerve. Hermione slammed her Athamercy book down on the table so hard that bits of her meal and carrot flew everywhere. "If being good at divination means I have to pretend to see death omens in a lump of tea leaves, I'm not sure I'll be studying it much longer. That lesson was happy little rubbish compared to my Athamercy class." She snatched out her bag and walked away. Ron frowned at her. "What is she talking about?" she said to Harry. She hadn't been to an Athamercy class yet. Harry was pleased to get out of the cold after lunch. Yesterday's rain had cleared. The sky was clear, pale grey, and the grass was shrinking and damp and underfoot as they set off for the first ever Care of Magical Creatures class. Ron and Hermione weren't speaking to each other. Harry walked beside them in silence as they went down for the sloping lawns to Hagrid's hut on one edge of the Forbidden Forest. It was only when he spotted only two familiar pack heads of the bone he realized they must be having these lessons with the Slytherins. Neville was taking animated Ravenwood, who was shouting. Harry saw quite sure he was shouting. Hagrid was waiting for his class at the door of his hut. He stood up his moleskin overcoat with a fang at the boarhound at his heels, looking impatient to start. "Come on now, get a move on," he called as the class approached. "Got a real treat for you today. Great lesson coming up. Everyone here? Right, follow me." For one nasty moment, Harry thought that Hagrid was going to lead them into the forest. Harry had enough unpleasant experience in there to last him a lifetime. However, Hagrid stole off around the edge of the trees, and 5 minutes later they wound themselves out a kind of bad dog. There was nothing in there. "Everyone gather around the fence here," he called. "That's it, make sure you can see. Now, first thing I want to show is open your books." "How?" said the cold, drawling voice of Draco Malfoy. "Huh? How do we open our books?" Malfoy repeated. He took out his copy of the Monster Book of Monsters, which he had bound shut with the end of the rope. Other people took theirs out too. Some, like Harry, had belted their books shut. Others had crammed them inside tight bags or clamped them together with ball clips. Hasn't been able to open their books?" said Hagrid, looking crestfallen. The class all shook their heads. "We've got to stroke him," said Harry grit, as though this was the most obvious thing in the world. "Look!" He took Hermione's copy and ripped off the spello tape that bound it. The book tried to bite, but Hagrid ran a giant forefinger down its spine, and the book shivered, and then fell open and lay quiet in his hand. "Oh, how silly we've all been!" Malfoy sneered. "We should have stroked them. Why didn't we get..." I thought they were funny.
Та читай, не бійся, тут 2 друга зустрілись.
Мені странно щось. Странний дрес. I thought they were funny," Hagrid said uncertainly to Hermione. "Oh, tremendously funny," said Malfoy. "Really witty, giving us books that try and rip our hands off." "Shut up, Malfoy," said Harry quietly. Hagrid was looking downcast and Harry wanted Hagrid's first lesson to be a success. Right then, said Hagrid, who seemed to be lost. So we've got your books and now you need the magical creatures. Yeah, so I'll go and get them. Hang on. He strode away from them first into the forest and out of sight. God, this place is going to be dogs, said Malfoy loudly. The old teaching process, my father will have a fit when I tell him. Shut up, Malfoy, Harry repeated. Careful, Potter, there's a Dementor behind you. Ooh, squeaked Lavender Brown, pointing towards the opposite of the paddock. Pointed towards them was a dozen of the most bizarre creatures Harry had ever seen. They had the bodies, hind legs, and tails of horses, but the front legs, wings, and heads of what can seem to be giant eagles, with cruel, steel-coiled beaks and large, brilliantly orange eyes. The talons on the front legs were half a foot long and deadly-looking. Each of the beasts had a thick of leather collar around his neck, which was attached to a long chain, and the ends of all of these were let into hands of Hagrid. They were jogging up the hill. Gee up there! He roared, shaking the chains and urging the creatures toward a friend where the cloud stood. Everyone drew back slightly as Hagrid reached them and teared the creatures to the fence. Hippogriffs! His Harry roared happily, waving a hand at them. Beautiful, aren't they? Harry could sort of see what Hagrid meant. Once he was gone on the first shock of seeing something that was half horse, half bird, he started to appreciate the hippogriffs' gleaming hoods, changing smoothly from feather to head, each of them a different color, stormy gray, bronze, pinkish white, then chestnut and inky black. So, said Hagrid, rubbing his hands together and beaming around, if you want to come and be nearer. No one seemed to want to. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, however, approached the fence cautiously. Now, first thing you're gonna know about hippogriffs is where they're proud, said Hagrid easily offended. Hippogriffs don't ever insult one, because it might be the last thing you do. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle were listening. They were taking an undertone, and Harry had a nasty feeling they were plotting how best to disrupt the closer. You always wait till the Gryffindors to make the first wound, said Hagrid continued. It's polite, see? You walk towards him and you bow and you wait. If he bows back, you're allowed to touch him. If he doesn't bow, then you get away from his sharpish, because those talons hurt. Right, who wants to go first? Was it the first bell quickly went out? Even Harry, Ron, and Hermione had misgivings. The Gryffindors had tossed in the fierce head and flexing their powerful wing. They didn't seem to like be tethered like this. No one, said Hagrid with a pleading look. I'll do it, said Hagrid. There was an intake of breath from behind the ear for both Lavender and Parvati whispered. Ooh, no, Harry, remember your tea leaves. Have you ignored them? Not go with that offense. Good man, Harry, hurried Hagrid. Right then, let's see how you get on with the buckbeak. He untied one of the chains, pulled the grey hippogriff away from his fellows, and shipped off his leather collar. The claws on the other side of the padlock seemed to be holding its breath now for size. Easy now, Harry, said Harry quietly. You've got eye contact. Now try not to blink. Hippogriffs don't trust you if you blink too much. Harry's eyes quickly Buckbeak had turned his short head and was staring at Harry with one fierce orange eye. That's it, said Harry. That's it, Harry. Now bow. Harry didn't feel much like exposing the back of his neck to Buckbeak, but he did as he was told. He gave a short bow and then looked up. The hippogriff was still staring cautiously at him. It didn't move. Said Harry, it sounded worried. Right, back away now, Harry. Easy does it. But then to Harry's more surprise, the gift was sounded at his sky and sank into what is a near mistake bump. Well done, Harry, said Harry ecstatically. Right, you couldn't touch him. By his beak, go on. Feeling that a better reward would have been to back away, Harry moved slowly towards the hippogriff and reached out towards him. He patted the beak several times, and the hippogriff closed his eyes lazily, as though enjoying it. The class broke into applause, all except for Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle, who were looking deeply disappointed. Right then, Harry, said Hagrid. I recall he might have left you right him. This was more than Harry had bargained for. He used to a broomstick, but he wasn't sure a hippogriff would be quite the same. You climb up there, just behind the weak point, said Hagrid. And mind you don't pull out of his featherhouse. You don't like that. Harry put his foot on top of Buckbeak's wing and hoisted himself onto his back. Buckbeak stood up. Harry wasn't sure where to hold on. Everything in front of him was covered in feathers. Go on then, roared Hagrid, slapping the hippogriff's hindquarters. Without warning, 12-foot wings flapped open on either side of Harry. He had just time to seize the hippogriff around the neck before he was roaring upwards. It was nothing like a broomstick, and Harry knew which one he preferred. High hippogriff's wings were breathing uncomfortably on either side of him, catching him under his legs, making him feel he was about to be thrown off. Glossy feathers slipped under his fingers, and he didn't dare get his one grip. Instead of the smooth action, his nearest 2,000, he now felt himself looking backward. As the hindquarters of the hippogriff wasn't found with his wings. Buckbeak threw him once around the padlock and then headed back to the ground. This was the bit Harry had been reading. He leaned back as the smooth neck lowered, feeling he was going to slip off to the beak, when he felt a heavy thud as the four ill-assorted feet hit the ground, and just managed to hold on and pushed himself straight again. Good work, Harry, roared Hagrid as everyone except Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle cheered. Okay, who else wants to go? Emboldened by Harry's success, the rest of the class climbed cautiously into the paddock. Hagrid untied his grippers one by one, and soon people were blowing nervously all over the paddock. Neville ran repeatedly backwards from his, which didn't seem to want to bend its knees. Ron and Hermione practiced on the chestnut while Harry watched. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle had taken over Buckbeak. He had bowed to Malfoy, who was now patting his beak, looking deceitful. This is very easy, Malfoy trolled, long enough for Harry to hear him. I knew it must have been if Potter could do it. But you're not dangerous at all, are you? He said to the hippogriff. Are you, you ugly great brute? It happened in a flash of steely talons. Malfoy let out a high-pitched scream, and the next moment Hagrid was wrestling Buckbeak back into his collar as he strained to get it to Malfoy, whose lay curled in the grass, blood blossoming over his robes. I'm dying! Malfoy yelled at the class, panicked. I'm dying, look at me, it's killed me! You're not dying, said Hagrid, who had gotten very white. Someone help me! Gotta get him out of here. Hermione ran to open the gate while Hagrid lifted Malfoy easily. As they passed, Harry saw that there was a long, deep gash in Malfoy's arm. Blood spattered in the grass, and Hagrid ran with him up the slope towards the castle. Very shaken, the care of magical creatures class followed to the walk. The Slytherins were all shouting about Hagrid. They should sack his straight away, said Pansy Parkinson, who was in tears. It was Malfoy's fault, snapped Dean Thomas. Crabbe and Goyle flexed their muscles stridently. They all climbed the stone steps into the deserted entrance hall. I'm going to see if he's okay, said Pansy, and they all watched her run up the marble staircase. The Slytherins, still muttering about Hagrid, pulled in the direction of their dungeon common room. Harry, Ron, and Hermione proceeded upstairs to the Gryffindor Tower. Do you think he'll be all right? Said Hermione nervously. Of course he will. I don't know if he can mend his cuts in about a second, said Harry, with far worse injuries mended mercifully by the metronome. That was a very bad thing to happen in Hagrid's first class, though, wasn't it? Said Ron, looking worried. Trust Malfoy to match things up for him. They were among the first to reach the Great Hall at dinner time, hoping to see Hagrid. He wasn't there. Wouldn't said Hermione anxiously, letting shoot the stake on the back of the room. They better not, said Harry was watching the Slytherin table. A large group, including Crabbe and Goyle, were huddled together, deep in conversation. Harry was sure they were cooking up their own version of how Malfoy had gone injured. Well, you can't say it was an interesting first day back, said Ron gloomily. They went up to the crowded Gryffindor common room after dinner and tried to do the homework for Professor McGonagall had sat them, but all three of them kept breaking off and glancing out of the tower window. There's a lad in Hagrid's window, Harry said suddenly. Well, look. If we could, we could go down and see him. It's quite still early. I don't know, said Hermione slowly, and Harry saw her glance at him. I'm allowed to walk across the grounds, he said pointedly. Sirius Black hasn't got past the Dementors here, has he? So they put their things away and headed out to the portrait hall, glad not to meet anybody on their way to the front door. And he weren't fairly sure he was supposed to go. The stars were still wet and almost back in the twilight. Then they reached Hagrid's hut. They knocked and a voice growled. Come in. Hagrid was sitting in his shirtless sleeves at his scrabbled wooden table. His boarhound Fang was his head in Hagrid's lap. One look of them with Hagrid had been thinking a lot. There was a pale tank tortoise as big as bucket in front of him, and he seemed to be having difficulty in getting them into focus. Inspector Sazaka, it's a record, he said thickly when he recognized them. Don't recall they've ever had a teacher who only lasted the day before. You haven't been sacked, Hagrid, gasped Hermione. Not yet, said Hagrid miserably, taking a large gulp of whatever he was in his tankard. But it's only a matter of time. Isn't it, after Malfoy? How is he? Said Ron. They all sat down. It wasn't serious, was it? Madame Pomfrey fixed him best he could, said Hagrid dully. But he's saying it's still agony, covered in bandages, moaning. He's faking it, said Harry at once. Metamorphic meant Anthony. She regrew half my bones last year. Trust Malfoy to milk it for all it's worth. School governors have been told, of course, said Harry miserably. They reckon I started to bake. Should have left Hagrid's for later. Damn flubberworms or something. Just gotta make a good first lesson. It's all my fault. It's all Malfoy's fault, Hagrid, said Hermione earnestly. Wait witnesses, said Harry. You said here for aggressive tag if you insult them. It's Malfoy's problem because he wasn't listening. We'll tell Dumbledore what really happened. Yeah, don't worry, Hagrid, we'll back you up, said Ron. Tears leaked out the crinkled corners of Hagrid's beetle-back eyes. He grabbed both Harry and Ron and pulled them into a long making cup. I think you've had enough to drink, Hagrid, said Hermione faintly. She took the tankard from the table and went outside to empty it. Maybe she's right, said Hagrid, letting go of Hagrid and Ron, who both started away, rubbing their grips. Hagrid rehabbed himself out of his chair, followed to Hermione, and slowly outside. They heard a loud splash. What's he done? Said Harry nervously as Hermione came back in with the empty tankard. Stuck his head in the water barrel, said Hermione, putting the tankard away. Hagrid held back his long hair and beard slopping wet, dripping the water out of his eyes. That better, he said, shaking his head like a dog and brushing them all. Listen, it was good of you to come and see me. Hagrid stopped dead, staring at Harry as though he'd only just realized he was there. What do you think you're doing, eh? He roared so suddenly that they jumped a foot in the air. You don't go anywhere around the hotel, Harry. And you too, let him. Hagrid strode over to Harry, grabbed his arm and pulled him to the door. Come on, said Hagrid angrily. I'm taking you all back to school. And don't let me catch you walking down to see me after dark again. I'm not worth that.